All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Will you get that door, Faith? Will you get that door? All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, number one, we have a lot of guests here today, so I appreciate it. We have Raymond just passed his test this morning. I don't know if he's coming with us, but I'm just happy that he passed. And we always welcome people to come and visit. Just real quick about our company, we don't have any splits or caps at all here at DHS Realty. The only thing you pay is $100, and that's on the first of each month. But it's only the first day of the first month that you're with us. So if you got licensed on June 2nd, your first 100 would be on July 1. And who is it that doesn't? It's $100. That's every 30 days on the first. And then any closing that you have is $225. There's no splits, at caps, or anything at this firm. And then for any lease or referral check, it's only $50. So it's really easy. It's 100, the 225, and the 50. That's it. There's no funny stuff. There's no funny fees. There's no review charges. There's no breathing charges. And nothing. So we don't have a brick and mortar, but what we have is Truly Title. They sponsor our firm, and we're able to use any of their 19 locations around the DFW area. If you're ever up in Sundance in Utah, they have one there. You can stop in there and do a contract if you want. But the way we train you is you'll never have to go to a building like that to do a contract, because we do things on our phone or on our laptop, and all you need is Wi-Fi or a hotspot to be able to do it. I'm available 5 a.m. to midnight. We've got Shannon, she's down in College Bryan Station, so she's your referral down there. We're in the host state, so minus a few small cities, Lubbock and Amarillo, but everywhere else. We have an agent in the Rio, all the way up through Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Waco, Texas A&M, El Paso. We just left El Paso, but we could get back into it if I have an agent there. Dave Wilson's been with me forever. Lola has been with me forever. Tabitha is great, somebody to watch. She does video messages to me all the time, and I love it. And then we have Ryan here. He's with Mortgage Link. They are our second sponsor. That's our big ones. Ryan is hungry for business. He comes here all the time and pours into us. And so I think it would be good to reach out to him if you ever need somebody. He works under Brooks, who is my guy. I've known Brooks for about 20 years. And I'm really good friends with him. I don't go out to dinner with him or anything. I use him as a lender because he's available 5 a.m. to midnight every day. And if you're working with somebody on a Saturday at 8 p.m. and you have a pre-approval letter for $550 and you're writing an offer for $220, he will send you a pre-approval letter for $220 with the address of the property you're making the offer on, instead of it saying to be determined or anything like that. So he's somebody that I highly recommend and respect. But again, Franco's a lender. You can reach out to him. You know, it's always good to have 3 lenders. But I definitely thank Ryan for being here and the time that he puts in to always come, and he'll stay and answer any questions. And if you want to reach out to him, you can as well. I'm not going to go around and introduce everybody, but I will say I appreciate y'all, taking your time out. So we have food and pizza. We do this every Friday at noon. It's always recorded. It's always in person, and it's always remote. So you can be anywhere. And what I thought we'd cover today, well, let me just say, I'm going to be going out of town on Sunday morning until Friday. I leave real early on Sunday, so I won't have cell service while I'm in the air. But the time you wake up, I'll have cell service, because that's when I land in Mexico. I'll be there with my wife and my 2 kids for about 4 or 5 days. Lola will be taking, being my side-by-side person here in Dallas. So obviously, you can try to reach out to me. I'm going to try to enjoy myself for 4 days or so, and then just come back. And I take 1 vacation a year. But Lola will be there. She has been taking brokerage classes, and we've been training, and I feel 100% confident with her being in my stead while I'm gone. I'll still review all the contracts. I'm going to have my phone with me while I'm on the beach. And probably one night I'll go to eat without my phone, which my wife will love. But other than that, it's hard to put down your phone when you're trying to start something. And I feel like this is a great company. So anyways, Lola will be in charge if you have any questions while I'm gone. All right. So what we're doing today is we're talking about how it works when we have a buyer. So we have a couple lead programs. So I generally say that when you work with a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord, once you get licensed, the highest likelihood is that it'll be a buyer or a tenant. Not always, but generally that's the way it's going to roll, is a buyer or a tenant. So we're going to do buyer training today. And if any of y'all have ever reached out to me, whether you're with our company or not, I get back with you pretty quick. And that's exactly how I do it with my wife, with my kids, and with my clients. So obviously customers who will call you first, and you'll turn them into a client by being super responsive. And so when somebody calls me, I pick up the phone and I go something like this. Hey, this is Doug with DHS Realty. How can I help you? Hey, my name's Tim. I got your number from somebody and wanted to look at 123 Easy Street. And I would just reply back, when do you want to look at it? And I mean, sometimes it shocks the buyer. Oh, I didn't know it was that quick. Oh yeah, I mean, what do you want to look tonight or this weekend or what? Oh, how about tonight at 6? All right, cool. Is this your cell phone, Tim? And he says, yes. What's your email? tim@timward.com. Do you text? Oh, you do? All right, cool. Well, I tell you what, have you ever talked to a lender before, or how are we financing this home? No, I haven't talked to a lender before. I was hoping somebody could walk me through everything. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to put you on speaker right now. And in my notes on my iPhone, I'm going to send you a list of 3 lenders. It's free to get pre-approved. It's not going to cost you anything. And at least that way, we'll know that if you like the home tonight, that we could prepare an offer, knowing the financing is critical when we send the offer in. And in this market right now, Tim, we won't even have a seller look at an offer without a pre-approval letter. And if he's a buyer, he's going to say, absolutely, I will call them when I get off the phone with you. If he's a stroker, he's going to say shit like this. Don't worry about it. I can afford anything. And that's when you got to decide whether you're going to cut bait with that person, because I don't play games. This is my livelihood. And I'm like, hey, I appreciate the fact that you can buy and sell me 10 times over. But unfortunately, the seller doesn't know you from Adam and Eve, and we need a pre-approval letter. I'll be happy to show you tonight, but we need a pre-approval letter at some point in the next couple of days. And like Tim right now is going through, you know, it's kind of the same thing in a way. And I told him, I said, go ahead and meet them and make them prove themselves a liar. So go ahead and assume they are going to get with a lender and get the pre-approval process going. So I get off the phone with them, and I'm usually driving or I'm out running or doing something. I go into my phone and I go to this app or Popple, which is this is a business card right here. I used to have it on the back of my phone. This is Haystack, which is free, and it's an electronic business card. And I have it on my phone. It's called Haystack. It's free. You download your information. You can put any kind of logo you want, because we don't micromanage logos here. You can use DHS, but you can have orange and black cards or Rottweilers if you want, as long as DHS is half the size of the biggest contact. But the reason I got a cell phone is now I'm able to proactively send him my business card. And I would argue that that's what you want to get always, is somebody's cell phone. When somebody says, hey, you got a business card? Man, I love to give you one, but I just don't believe in them. I figure you're going to throw it away with bubble gum or something. But I have an electronic business card, but that's not why I'm here, to get your number. And then what would she say? I'll give it to you. And then you start a relationship. You have no chance of it giving a business card to somebody, making it passive that they're going to reach out to you. Does that make sense? So I always send that. It's just like, it's just a no-brainer. And I usually do my Popple, which I highly recommend. I've sent it to most of y'all when you reached out to me. When you open it, it's got a link to all my social media. It's got a website on Champions. It's got a website on DHS Realty. It's got how to meet Doug, meet our team. And you can set that all up for you individually. So I always send that. And then I like to go to my YouTube page, and I have a little video that says, who's Doug Smith? And I just want Tim to understand who he's about to form a relationship with. Because with Tim, I want him for life. I don't want to just help him buy this piece of land tonight. I want to help him when he has kids, when he gets remarried, when he has adoptive kids, when he friggin' has grandkids. And I've told you before, I've worked with a 26-year-old that I met when he was 6, 20 years ago. And I've worked with all his brothers and sisters, in between about 5 people. And it was a lot of money I made, but I didn't even know them. I knew this guy who I worked out at the gym, and he was a bullshitter, I thought, but he was really true in what he was saying when he was talking about the amount of money that he has. So, so I send something like that. And then obviously I'm going to go in the MLS, and I have this website on my phone, and the website is matrix.netris.net. And I always like to do it like that. So you see, that's the website. There's an app. I just don't like it, because this enables you to do anything, load a transaction. You can load a listing, you can terminate a listing, and you're limited on the app. So matrix.netris.net. How you doing?
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Well, no, we just got started. Pete's over there, and will you see if somebody will grab a couple chairs, or if you'll do it for us? I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So matrix.netris.net, and that is MLS. Okay, that's MLS. So once you get to MLS, you're going to have a login. It's always going to be your license with a 0 in front. So you're going to have it specifically, and then you're going to have your own password. And oh, here's a chair right here if you want. I didn't even notice it. Okay, and then your password is your own. And then when you hit enter, you're going to go to a screen that has 14 boxes, 7 on top of 7. I just got to go back and forth to see it. All right, so there they are. There's 14 boxes, 7 on top of 7. And in the left corner, it says Netris Matrix. And when you click on it, you're going to see, hopefully, a screen that we all have as conformity. It just helps me train you guys. And in my opinion, it's what is the most important. Now, you can always add more screens here. And right here under additional, basically what I did is I minimized all these. But at one point, they were all like this. And it's too many boxes. You don't even know what the hell they're talking about. And half of these you don't even need. But when you first get your MLS, this is what it looks like. And so all I do to try to get us on a conformity level is I go in and I delete them all. But I just save them right here under additional. And all you do is you hit that, you hit this, and all you're trying to do is minimize these boxes. And that way, when I'm helping you, if you're with our firm, this is exactly what it looks like. Over here on the left is my recent one home visitors. Those are my buyers that have looked at searches, and it tells you what time of day. And if they favorited a home to the right of yesterday, there'd be a heart. Now, one of the things that I did, and Laura and Mohammed saw this morning, is we had an agent named Ivan that joined, and he paid his board dues this morning. I've already gone in and done this, and he texted me at 10 o'clock. And what I did is I put his cell phone in up here at the top and his phone provider, and then he got a 4-digit code and he gave it to me, and I plugged it in here. So now anytime somebody opens a search, favorites a home, does a new search, he's going to get a text message and it's going to show up right there. But the problem with that is that I might not log into the MLS for a week. And so now a week later I go, oh my God, Laura, who's that? Well, Laura looked at that home a year ago, and now I'm calling her and she already bought it with you. So I'm trying to get it to where my phone goes off, and then I can reach out to her right then and go, oh my God, you just favorited 123 Easy Street. And she's like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, I just did that. I was like, I know it's crazy. I'm a professional. That's my job. So that's why that's there. This right here is super crazy. It's the best tool in the whole MLS. It's dummy proof. So let's say that Tim called me on 8005 Fall Meadow. And let's say that I never had any education when I was growing up, and I don't know how to spell fall. But I know that he said 8005, and I'm trying to find this home to see if it's available. I would go right here in this search square and type in 8005. And then when I go to street name, even if I didn't know how to spell fall, I know that is an F. All I'd have to do is hit the F and hit search. It's going to go all the way back to 2003 and pull up every home that starts with 8005 and an F. So then I would scroll down and I would say, oh, there's Fall Meadow. Look at that. It's sold in 2007. Well, that means he probably got it off of Zillow, because Zillow is not the most accurate. However, is he a buyer? Is he ever going to buy that home? No. But if he's a buyer, is he going to buy a home?
Yes.
So what I would do is I would probably open it and I would just go, let me just see the criteria, knowing that he's looking for something under 450 in Plano. Good luck. Okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to print this, and it's real easy. All I do is hit print, and by default, it's going to print this because it's going to say agent full report on the next screen. And that is the most information you can get. You hit print, and now you have what I'm looking at on this screen, which is the agent full report. So now I need to go in and do a search and send to him, because he thinks we're meeting at 6 p.m. at 8005 Fall Meadow, right? That's what he called on. I haven't told him yet it's not available. He pulled it up off of Zillow. So I'm going to go into MLS and I'm going to hit search, and I'm going to go to either detailed or quick, because that's residential, that's multifamily, that's land, that's commercial, sale, lease, and then that's for residential lease properties in the MLS. So he wants to do I'm going to do a detailed or a quick search. And when I open up this next screen, it's going to be the search criteria for a buyer. And you can see in the left corner, you should only have active marked. But what happens is when you initially get the MLS from your board dues, they have the next three marked: active, contingent, kick out, and active option. Those are homes that aren't even available. They're under contract. So what you're going to be doing is getting a buyer wanting to look at homes that aren't available. So that's why when most people don't know, I've gone in and cleaned your MLS up with you side by side with me. I've uncheck marked those three and just marked active, and then I save it. So every time you do a search, I know you're only sending properties that should be available. So then you go over here, and at price, it's dummy proof. I'm going to go 0-500. And the reason why I don't do 500,000 is because there's 3 zeros marked right there. So if I did 0-500,000, that would be 0-500 million dollar homes, and that would be everything in DFW. Right now you can see that there's a question mark because I need to go down to city. And if I type in Plano, you can see that there's 40 homes, but that's because I put no criteria in. Okay. So that home is about 3,500 square foot that he called on. So if I went 2,500 and a plus, that means that I need the plus there to make that a minimum square footage. And I just went to 0 homes. So that's when I need to have a come to Jesus with Tim, and hopefully he's approved for 700, because at 700, there's 25 homes in Plano. Okay. So just to have a selection, I'm going to say that he is approved for 700. Does that make sense? And it's 2,500 square foot minimums with the master down. So at this stage, what I've always tried to train us on is to think of 3 tabs: results, save, new auto email. Results, save, new auto email. And I say it like 5 times because it's really all you need to know. Results, save, new auto email. So I'm going to hit results. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to hit new auto email. And just like that, I'm in 3 screens into the future. And at the bottom of this screen, when I hit save, I just emailed those to Tim. So now I need to put Tim's name in here. So I'm going to go up to create a contact. Everything yellow you have to fill in. And then you hit save, and there's Tim right there. And then right here, because I'm very proactive, I'm going to be in touch with Tim in a second. So I don't really care what the subject line says. I'm just going to put homes. And then when I scroll down, right before I hit this button save, I'm going to go right here and click ASAP. And what that means is what somebody referred to, you did, I think, Melissa, is that after I send that initial search to Tim, in the next second, a new listing gets inputted with that criteria, he's going to get it. It could be at 3 in the morning and it'll go hit his inbox. And that way, when he wakes up at 8, he's like, damn, dude, did you send me an email at 3? And you can say, yeah, that's, I'm a professional. But really, you were asleep when it happened because it was on autopilot. Okay. The neat thing is it never expires, ever. Okay. Okay, I don't see it. That's all right. You'll figure it out. All right. So now I'm going to hit save, and I just emailed it to Tim. Now I'm going to call Tim.
The black screen is black, though.
Oh. Well, it's recording. Okay, we're all right. Okay, we're good. I mean, I'm recording it. It doesn't matter. So, I have no idea. All right. So, anyways, oh, I see the screen. Maybe it's right there. Actually, I think it might have tabbed on the back end. Let's see if I can do it again. Give me 1 second. Technology. Yeah. All right, perfect. All right, so so I've sent the property, and then I text him and I go, hey, I just want to let you know I sent you some properties and wanted to know if you got them. And he goes, boom, I don't see them. And I go, well, check your spam or junk. And then he says, oh, I see it. And as soon as he opens it, I'm going to get a text because that's what I set the email up for. And if he favors the home, I'm going to get a text. So what I'm going to do is say, hey, I sent you a list of properties because the home you called on at 8005 Palmetto, it sold 12 years ago. And he's like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, I have no idea why that's happening. Who's Krista?
Somebody from the office here.
Oh, I
I
see.
think Lola went to figure it out.
Okay. Anyways, it'll be fine. Is she gonna turn off?
The IT guy is out there messing with her computer, so it's messing.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's fine. That's why you come in person. Because I can talk you through it just like it was on the screen. So anyways, I tell them that wasn't available, that everything else that I just sent you was. Now, there's 25 properties, but I might tell Tim like, hey, I'm still good for 6 p.m. tonight. Let me know if you want to look at any of the properties. I'm still available. We could probably knock out 3 or 4. Okay. So when that happens, let's just say hypothetically that I log out, I'm doing something, and he texts me back and he goes, yeah, I'd like to look at 5012 Norfolk. 5012 Norfolk. He goes, I'd like to look at 5012 Norfolk. Well, I'm already going to be logged out of MLS by the time he does that, aren't I? Because that's like 3 hours in the future. Okay. So that means I got to go back into MLS, which is matrix.netrus.net. When I get here, I'm going to do my login, which is my license number with a 0 in front. And I'm going to have my own password. It's going to give me those 14 boxes again. And I'm going to pick the one in the top left corner. And once I hit the one in the top left corner, I'm going to be in the MLS, and hopefully I'll see his name over here on the top left corner, which says Tim Ward. Now, if it didn't have a heart, I'd have to go find that property, which means all I do is go right here and type in what? 5012. And let's say I didn't know how to spell Norfolk. I would just put it in. If I knew how to spell Norfolk, I put OR. But either way, it doesn't matter, because when I hit enter, it's going to come up, because it's going to pull up all the homes from 2003 to today that start with 5012 NOR. And then I'm going to click on the MLS number and I'm going to print it. Now, when I print it, it's going to show all this information. And the most important information, in my opinion, right now is this person right here, because I need to text Kelly Mahorn and ask her if the home is still available. Because even though it's showing active, it could have gone under contract this morning. And then I need to figure out how am I going to make an appointment for it, because I have to show it. Then I printed this, so that's good. And then I'm going to go up to the top. And as I scroll up here, there's just some things that I know to look for, which says that I have to probably text her to make an appointment. So right down here, it says it's on a combo, and I'm going to text her, and it's going to be basically like this. Hey, Kelly, this is Doug Smith with DHS Realty. I'm trying to show 5012 Norfolk tonight at 6 p.m. Can you give me showing instructions, please? Is it still available? Question mark. That's it. That's her. She replies back. Yeah, it's available. We have a lot of interest. Combo is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on a soup. It's got security. It's George Bush. If the alarm goes off, the code is 7224. Turn all the lights out when you leave and lock all the doors. All right, cool. Thanks. That's it. So now I print this, and I'm going to go meet Tim in front of the house, probably without a buyer rep printed. But I'm going to always have my home buyer packet. And when I get out of the car and I have my home buyer packet tonight, I've already left him a couple of video messages. So he already knows what I look like. And when I get out of the car, and I know I would get along with Tim if he was a buyer, I'd shake his hand and go, oh my God, dude, what are you, like Schwarzenegger? And I mean, that always makes everybody feel good when you work out and people acknowledge it. I know that nobody acknowledges it with me because I don't work out. So he would go, yeah, I'm a big deal, but no, I'm not. I used to know a guy that would say that. I go, oh my God, dude, you're huge. He's like, well, I'm a big deal. Google me. And I was like, shut up. And then when you Google him, there's like a felony assault before it showed a body. So anyways, but I am going to bullshit with Tim, and he's going to like me before we get to the door. I can guarantee it. And I'm going to have my little packet rolled up. And when I shake his hand, I'm going to say, hey, just a little information about me. It's just my resume, some propaganda. Let's go look at the house. As we're walking out, and I say it like that, it's just some propaganda. As we're walking up to the house, I'm going to automatically mention about the sun and how the backyard sets. I went on a walkthrough this morning already at 7 a.m. with a new builder, buyer mine. I remember picking the lot 18 months ago, and all the lots were like this, and that was the west. So the backyards are facing north. Every lot had a $50,000 premium except this one, and I told him to pick it because the only difference between this one and 7 lots of 50,000 was 5 feet more in the backyard. And I go, why don't we just get rid of these 50,000 and just get this one? And they're like, why? And I'm like, because you got $50,000 worth of equity. And I go, no one buys a premium on resale in 7 years. When they look at your backyard It's 5 feet different than the other ones. Okay, so here was the backyard and here's the house. Right there was a jet out where the patio was. Well, there's the sun. This right here, jet out of the house, shaded this whole area. And in the summer, that's going to be enjoyable. But if that was the backyard, that would be due west sun, and that would be friggin' brutal. If that was the backyard, it'd be perfect because that's east, and the whole house would shade that backyard and create a breeze. So that's what I'm talking about when I walk up to this house. Yep. And of course, I already looked at the house before, because right here, all I did was click on the address, and it pulls up a map. And when it pulls up the map, I can zero in on the specific house, and I can already tell what it faces. So like on this house, that's the walk up. Again, that's west. That pool, just so you know, is going to be friggin' brutally hot in the summer. I mean, and somebody will say, oh my God, it's got a pool. And I'm like, have fun enjoying that for 4 months out of the year. And again, I don't even see a hot tub on that, which means you won't use it in the winter. And that means it's basically useless. I'm not joking. I mean, that's due west. Does everybody see that? That's west. And the sun's way up high at 9 p.m. It's going to get, due west sun. So those are the types of things that I would tell Tim with the hope that he's going to say something like, man, I've never heard that before. And I'm like, well, I know. That's the whole goal. So let's say that he looks at the house, and as we walk in, he goes, I really like this home. Did you say we have 4 more tonight? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I think we could scratch those. I want to make an offer on this home. Then I would just look at him, and I swear to God, I could have got his license as soon as he got it or as soon as you got it, which was this morning. And I would say, why don't you give me about 40 minutes and I'll start sending you over some documents. Good to meet you. Look at that packet on your way home, because I'm going to send you a couple forms that are in it. That's it. I never talked about IBS or the buyer rep agreement. In class we do, but not in real life. All right. So I'm going to text that agent one more time on the way home to make sure it's what? It's still available. And she says yes. And I have this printed right here. I'm going to go into the next website, which is Zip Forms. Now, this is the way I get into Zip Forms. Everybody's different. There is probably a dozen ways to get to Zip Forms. It doesn't matter how you do it. It just matters that you do it. And I did Janet's templates last night, so that's why I still have her logged in. So I'm going to log out so that you see that this is what it'll look like, and it'll say right here, log in. You hit log in, and it should have your email and your password already defaulted. You hit log in again, it takes you right back to the same website. And to the right, it'll say, hi, Doug, Zip Forms. Problem with training is always talking before the screen loads. All right, so there it'll say, hi, Doug, Zip Forms. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. All right, just like when we were in the MLS, we look for 3 things: results, save, new auto email, results, save, new auto email, results, save, new auto email. Here, when we click on Zip Forms, the screen turns blue. And you're looking for one button only when the screen turns blue, the new tab. And the people that whisper it know that I preached it. Because I had someone last week that went to the template tab and wrote an offer. And that means that now forever in their template is a specific address. And so I went in to clean it up, but I was like, you hit the template tab. And like, no, I didn't. I was like, it defaults into transactions. You would have had to have hit it. Look right there, the green, it says transaction. See it below, it says new. That's the only tab you'll ever have to hit. And when you hit it, 5 boxes pull up. And all you're really concerned with is the first 3. Seller, buyer, lease. Seller, buyer, lease, and Tim is a buyer. So I'm going to check his name. And when I check his name, I'm going to name it. And it's really only for me to know. So I could name it Schwarzenegger if I wanted. And it would just be my nickname for him. He's never going to see it. So if you want to be Tim Ward, if you want to put an address, after you name it, I tell you always to just select the dot next to residential. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a condo, vacant land, anything. Just make it simple. Just pick residential. And then when you go to template, I have more, but you're going to have 3. You're going to have a buyer template, a seller template, and a lease template. And so what you're going to do is look for the buyer template because he's a buyer. Once you hit save, the next screen, you're looking at a white summary square. It's going to go right there. And all you do, and just to make it simple for everybody, you go 2 tabs to the right and you hit documents. And this is where you have all your forms pre-filled. So when I open up the information about brokerage services and scroll down, it's pre-filled. And that just took the name out. But yours will be pre-filled. I'm going to print that. or possibly e-sign it to the buyer. Okay. You hit the back button, and now we want to make the customer become a client. So we open up the buyer rep agreement. It's going to be pre-filled. Okay. Shannon's my wife, so I have her in getting some production. So that's why I did that. All right. So let's say that the buyer's name is Tim. All right. The rest of this document will be completely filled out. This will be your cell phone and your email. It's got Dallas, Collin, and Denton counties. For Shannon, it might say College, Bryan Station, and surrounding counties in Texas. It could say the state of Texas if you wanted. And then really the only two paragraphs you have to fill in was Tim's name and paragraph 4. You're going to pick today's date because I'm meeting him at 6. And then I usually put about 2 months out. And I try to pick the same day to have some conformity. And then I hit save. So right now we have the IBS and the buyer rep, and I need to send it to him to make him a client. Is everybody with me? So I'm going to hit e-sign in the left corner. When I hit e-sign, really don't, hey brother, how you doing? Really don't have to do anything but hit this document right here. Select documents to include. Okay, is everybody with me? So I was in the document, I hit e-sign. This is the next screen. All you do is hit select documents to include. And then you just need to check mark what you're going to send. Whatever you hit e-sign out of, it automatically check marks it. So if you hit e-sign out of the 1 to 4 family, it would already have a check mark. I hit e-sign out of the buyer rep, so it's already check marked. I check mark the IBS and I go to close. And then I just follow along. Next. And it's going to give me a list of all the people that I need to send this to. So you can see that there's the buyer, Tim Ward. When I go to check mark him, it won't let me because I need an email. Once I put the email in, it will let me check mark him. Does that make sense? So it's kind of cool. And that's what I always tell you when I'm on the phone with you. I'm like, oh, go check mark the buyer on the left side. And when you check mark it, you go, oh, it didn't let me. I go, I know, but it'll tell you what you have to do in order to do it. And so usually it's the email that's missing. Then you just hit close and you just follow along. Next. And everything is going to load in front of you. The IBS and the buyer rep agreement. When it loads, there's going to be a menu over here on the right. And what you're going to do is scroll down to the bottom of each page and just confirm that there's an initial prompt for Tim. So I'm going to go here and I see there's an initial prompt. That will tell him to initial there. So he won't have to do anything but follow the prompts. Every page will have it. And then I just want to go to the IBS to make sure it's there. Well,
No,
look,
I've been adding the little initial boxes and the signatures like a dummy this whole time.
well, here's the deal.
This is so much easier.
Yeah, but the buyer rep, it did it, but look at the IBS, it didn't. So sometimes you actually have to.
Okay.
And I was hoping it didn't so that we could see how to do it. So right
The
here,
contract is 22 pages and you're like,
no. Well, now you'll know. So right there is Tim's. Okay, let's say that Tim was buying a property with his girlfriend, Lily. Well, that means that it might be both of them. And if I hit that drop down, Lily would be right underneath. But right now, Tim's the only buyer. So that's all that's there. All right. Well, I need to drag Tim's initials right here. And so all I'm going to do is hit drag and drop. And I'm going to see that initial. And because his name's there, that is his initial. And I wrap it and I drop the date. And now I'm done. When I hit send, when I hit next and I hit send, he just got it. And it's going to go to his spam probably. So you need to be in touch with him to let him know that you sent it, or he'll think that you never did. And you go, hey, check your spam. Oh, I see it. What do I do? Just open it. It's going to tell you initial 5 times and you just became a client. Yeah.
You could also customize your message.
Absolutely.
It's not send, so they kind of know what they're saying.
Absolutely. No, I think it's great, Alex. So, yeah, this is really just like a foundation for people, but absolutely, you can mess around with it as much as you want. All right, so here we are. We're back at the buyer rep. And so now we're going to hit the back button and we're going to go back to documents. So now we're writing an offer. And let's say that it's a 1 to 4 family or a townhome. That's a single duplex, triplex, quadplex, or a townhome. We're going to use the 1 to 4 family contract. You can see that I've got the IBS, the buyer rep, and there's the 1 to 4. When I open it, I've got it templated also. So it's going to be pre-filled on everything minus what you have to pre-fill that's specific to this transaction. So I'm going to have the tax row and I'm going to put the seller's name. And then we have Tim's name. And then I'm looking at the tax roll or the MLS printout, and it's going to tell me it's lot H. It's going to say it's block 8. It's going to say the subdivision name, easy subdivision. Okay. It's going to say county or city of Plano, Collin County, and then the address, 8,000, or what was it, 5012? 5012 Norfolk. All right, then you go down and I think it was Franco saying he's about to list a home and there's some exclusions. And he said, hey, how do I do the exclusion on the listing agreement? The listing agreement doesn't matter as much as the contract, because you could say on a listing agreement with a seller and put chandelier to be excluded, but if you forget to put it here, that chandelier is staying. So it's the contract that matters, not the listing when it comes to exclusions. I doubt that when you get this offer, you're going to pull up the listing agreement to compare. You just got to know that, hey, maybe you put it in the MLS, exclusion, chandelier in living room or whatever. So that's why I said that right up there, super easy. Seller's name, buyer's name, legal description. Right here, let's say there was a chandelier. That's all you would do. Chandelier in dining room. That just took it out of paragraph C and B, because B and C, you can see that's what stays that you don't have to ask for. Okay. So anything you see here that you put here, you just took it out of those paragraphs above. Down here at third-party financing, I already have it marked because that's the most common financing. Let's say that the house was $500,000 and he was getting 10% down. Well, you need to know that that's $50,000. And then once you put 450 here, all you got to do is hit tab and it does the math for you. Okay. Usually paragraph 4, you're not going to mess with. Let me explain what paragraph 4 is for. Paragraph 4 is if there's a current tenant in the property, that makes it an investment property. And that means that the landlord, who will be the new buyer, needs to have a copy of the leases that the previous seller has, and probably get the security deposit switched over to the buyer at closing. And then the other lease, I always like to say paragraph 4 is leases of people and things. The things are the biggest thing right now, solar panels. Solar panels are expensive. And whatever that lease is monthly, it stays with the home. Which means that if Tim barely qualified $500,000 with his current debt, he ain't going to qualify on this home if there's solar panels, because that solar panel debt every month goes on his debt ratio, because they can't be excluded. It's with the house, not the owner. Make sense? Okay. And so usually paragraph 4, you're not going to mess with. Paragraph 5, what I've done is I've already put the 100 and the 10 days. That 100 is the option and the 10 days is how many days you're buying. Now, that was 4 years ago when you could buy an option for 10 days at $100. Today, the contracts that I've reviewed in the last week, one of them, the option was 20 grand for 2 days on a $500,000 house because the buyers wanted it and there were over 50 offers. And again, $500,000 sounds like a big price range. There are no homes at all in Plano, Frisco, McKinney, Allen, 0 to 500,000 with 3,000 square foot minimum at all. There's one 0 to 600 in those 4 cities with 3,000 square foot minimum. And that just means that as there's a lower supply of homes and the demand is being current, that all these terms are going to be played with. So all I'm doing with the 100 and the 10 is so you never get that confused. And that means that when you see $100, like, damn, that must be the option. Because I've always heard that $100 for 10 days, $100 for 10 days. So right here, you're going to have always a title company, not a human being. Even though it says comma as escrow agent, that's not a human. The title company is called the escrow agent. So Truly Title, Hexter Fair, Chicago Title. Let's just say it was Chicago Title. Then you're going to have an address, 123 Easy Street. You don't need to do all the other crap. And then this blank right here, that's the earnest money. And that's why I kept it blank. And earnest money on a $500,000 house, it could be upwards of $50,000. And that means that the option obviously is not going to be 100. So it might be 1,000. And then right here, you might change 10 to 5 days. But you do not have to mess with this paragraph right here. It's blank on purpose. So this paragraph is if you're delivering additional earnest money. And most of the time, I haven't seen many contracts with that. What I have seen is some agents that get a little creative and they think that they're putting that in there and that's as the earnest money, but that's additional earnest money. So really it's just that top paragraph 5A that needs to be complete. And then 5B is the number of days to terminate. And you can see pre-printed in there, what time does the buyer have to terminate? 5 p.m. Okay. So that means that if this got executed on June 1, is June 1 day 1 or day 0? Day 0, and you would go June 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th at 5 p.m. The buyer could terminate. They would lose the 1,000. They get the 50,000 back. Okay, perfect. Then you go down to paragraph 6, and the beautiful thing about it is already pre-filled. Right here in this blank, you're going to put the same title company that's in paragraph 5. They will match. Does that make sense? And I spelled that wrong, but you get the point. All right, I'm going to cover some of this so we get an understanding while we're training because we're on good time. I'll be done in 20 minutes. So some people don't get this explained to them, and I just want to explain, even if you're visiting, you stay with whatever broker you're with or go somewhere else. Title insurance does not cover an error on a survey. So there's a separate insurance for survey coverage, and it's about $180 to $80. I mean, it's not that much.
In the country, it's 500.
Okay, so it could be more.
And most of the time out in where I'm at, we don't even use that because the sellers don't want to pay for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just FYI.
No, for sure. So if you weren't going to pay for it, then you would mark this box. Okay. And you would uncheck mark this buyer box. All right. And that means that you're not worried about it. What I've done is I've templated that we are going to have it and the buyer's paying for it. And here's the way I kind of think longer term. Once you see that, and then you go to the next page, what this is that also has buyer marked. And once the listing agent, again, this is a buyer offer. So you're the buyer's agent. When you send this to a listing agent and they look up there and they go, oh, look at that. The shortages is going to be paid by the buyer. And then the seller says, what about this paragraph? And the agent says, oh, don't worry about that. The buyer's paying for the survey also. That's not what it says. That paragraph says that the seller has to find their survey. If they don't, the seller's buying a new one. It's only if the seller finds a survey and it's deemed unacceptable that the buyer's paying it because it's right there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show buyer on both sides so that I could hypothetically get a free survey from my buyer. Does that make sense or not? So again, what that says in bold print in the middle of that paragraph is that if the seller fails to find their survey, they're buying a new one. It's only if the seller furnishes the survey and it's deemed unacceptable by the title and the lender that whoever's marked in that last sentence pays for a new survey. And I'll be straight up. I had a student, and I'll get you, but I had a student in class that was with a different broker 3 years ago. And I helped some friends of mine buy a $100,000 Pilot Point property for cash. So we didn't need a survey, but we had that marked exactly like that. The agent, it was her dad who was the seller, and she was a student. And she was excited that we were working together, and I was excited because she was a student. And, but it's in. Don't let friendships get in the way from who my client was. 5 days out from closing, she calls me, and this is what she said. Hey, Doug, does your buyer still need that survey? And I go, yeah. I already knew what happened. And she goes, oh. She goes, I just got the phone with the title company. My dad's being charged for a new survey. I go, oh, you didn't read the contract. She goes, yeah, I know. The title company just read that paragraph to me. I was like, yeah. I go, your dad had to find the survey in order not to pay for one. But your dad couldn't find a survey. And that's what that paragraph says, is that the seller has to buy a new one. And she wanted to know if my buyer would waive the survey because it's cash transaction. But because of what the contract read, she didn't read it and probably did the same thing that I just said when her dad said, hey, what's that paragraph about? Oh, don't worry about it, Dad. The buyer's paying the survey. But the dad never found his survey, so he had to buy a new one. What you got?
So that's kind of like the situation that we're in, and that's why I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, you're good.
So what do you do when a seller, they don't know if they have their survey, they have a few days to provide it, but the buyer doesn't want to pay for one? So that's kind of the situation we
And the
got
seller's
into.
not providing
And
it?
the title's like, well, how come the buyer hasn't provided a new survey yet? And well, the seller ended up finding theirs, but we already had this marked. So what if the buyer doesn't want to buy one at all? Well,
if the buyer doesn't want to buy one and it's not a requirement of underwriting, even if you have this in there,
Yeah.
you can get in touch with the title company and go, hey, Laura, I know the contract you have says that my buyer's buying a survey. We put it up there, but now they decided they don't want it. It's not a condition, so we just want to, she might say, put it on an amendment, and you do it on paragraph
okay,
9.
that's exactly what happened. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've had agents that have had that happen. I've had it happen also. And this just protects you. And so it's pre-filled. It's like you don't even have to touch most of the rest of this contract. Now, I do want to draw your attention to 6D Delta. I put residential pool and other residential uses. The way to read that is not so much the legalese of it, but just think that what that paragraph is saying is that, hey, this is what I want to do to the house. And if I can't do what I just wrote, then I want out and I have 3 days to terminate. So if I can't put a pool in the backyard or use it as a home, I automatically get 3 days to terminate when I find out that news. And the people that tell them that news is the title company with the deed restrictions and the HOA. So let's say that Laura was a daycare provider and she wanted to convert her garage to a daycare. Well, I would probably delete this and I would just put daycare. And that means that when the deed restrictions come back or the HOA says, hey, yeah, you can't have a home business like that, then she would have the next blank 3 days to object and get all her what back? Her earnest money. Would she ever get her option back?
No.
Never. Okay. Unless she goes to closing. Down at the bottom, I've already pre-filled that there's an HOA because most homes have one. So just to give you an idea, y'all, when I look at the contracts, I look at a contract in about 3 minutes because I've already pre-filled most of this. So sometimes what I'll see is this: you've unchecked marked that, but you did not on paragraph 22, which I already check marked. There's an HOA. And so I'll usually text you and go, hey, HOA or no HOA? And if you go, oh, no HOA, I'll just say, oh, go to paragraph 22 and uncheck mark the third box on the left. Again, I don't have to be in front of the computer to know that. And that's the benefit you get here. And if you check mark there is an HOA, but that's uncheck marked, I'm going to tell you to go back to paragraph 22 and check mark that there is one, because we want it to be the same. Okay. Does that make sense? All right. We're almost done here. So that's the HOA. And then if you continue on, you got paragraph 7, which I've templated that you do have the disclosure. Again, this is the buyer contract that you're representing the buyer. I have that you do have the disclosure because about 95% of the time you do. If you don't have the disclosure, then you would physically uncheck mark that, mark the second box, and I usually put 3 days. And that means that you're giving the buyer the seller 3 days to get to your buyer, the seller's disclosure. And if you read that, it says that the day your buyer gets it, they have an automatic 7 days to terminate. It's unrestricted 7 days because they did not get the disclosure, and they get what back? They lose their what though? They lose their option. Okay. And then sometimes I have an agent right now doing an estate. You would mark this on an estate sale, on certain foreclosures, on a new home. You don't have to have a disclosure. So they're exempt under the Texas property code. But again, I have this templated like that. So you usually don't have to do much. If you go to 7D, all our contracts are as is. So that'll be already marked. And then down at 7H, I already have put in $700 for a home warranty. Now, if you read it real quick, it looks like the first line, the buyer's paying that. But what it basically says at the end is that the title company is going to buy it in the buyer's name, but never debit the buyer the $700. It's going to be debited from the seller. So what that basically means when you see $700 or $1,000, you're asking the seller to pay that for your buyer. The reason they do it in the buyer's name is because back when I got licensed, that paragraph wasn't there. And there was a law in Texas where after a seller bought a home warranty at closing, they had 3 days to go get a refund. So they call in the home warranty, get a refund, and the buyer thought they had a warranty for a year because it was bought in the seller's name. But today they buy it in the buyer's name, but the buyer's never debited at closing. So that will always be a seller charge. And right now what we're seeing is what, Dave?
0.
We're seeing 0. So I would argue that you're going to probably delete that to 0, but for protection, I have 700 in there. Okay. And again, that is always going to be a seller charge if there's an amount there. Your buyer might decide to do it on their own. And if that's the case, that's fine. You'll still put 0 there and you'll just let the title company know, hey, my buyer's going to pay for a home warranty on their own.
Yeah, what I do is I put 0 and then I introduce them to our friendly Goosehead agent and get it knocked out.
Yep. Or
also,
fixed.
Sorry, Victoria.
Victoria. Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, you're
Victoria.
good. Yeah. Dave's one of
Same
our,
fixed.
yep. All right. And then paragraph 8 is when you have a relationship with a child parent spouse that's tied to the buyer or the seller, and or you're buying or selling yourself, or whatever is buying, you have a 10% share in, which would be like a limited partnership, a syndicate of some sort. Usually you leave that blank, but a lot of agents like Allie, she's got to put it in, she puts in there buyer's agent all day long. It can be really generic. You don't have to get, she's my third cousin on my mom's side, divorced twice. You don't have to get that specific. Closing date, you just click on it, pulls up a calendar. I think it'd be good to talk to Ryan if he already left. It'd be good to talk to Ryan to know when the closing date can happen with the lender. So not only do you have to communicate with the seller agent to see if the seller wants a lease back, but also with your buyer, what date is perfect for them, but always ask the lender. And then you just usually go 30 days out. So I would probably pick the 30th.
Addition.
Hit it.
Also, in the third party, you still want to confirm, because Doug does have 21 days templated. Sometimes lenders do need 30
Yep.
or 45 days. So when you're doing the second form that you have to do after this, you always have to do, unless definitely cash. You also want to make sure you check in, is it 2?
Perfect.
It says 21, if you may need 30, you may need 45, hey, you may only need 14, or you may need 7.
Ask the
Always
lender.
confirm.
Yep.
Always ask the lender.
Oh, yeah.
Always.
I think that's great. There's like 5 people I say all the time when you text me, like, that know answers that I won't know. And that is title questions, estates, deaths, airships. Title companies have a on-staff attorney that's free when it has to deal with the transaction. Lender, all lender questions. Hey, Doug, will this manufactured home go FHA? I don't know. I'm gonna have to call a lender. They're gonna tell you to look for certain markings on that mobile home. Hey, Doug, should Tim have his girlfriend's name on this as he writes an offer? I don't know. You need to talk to the lender if you're getting a loan. I'm not the one that's going to underwrite it, right? The lender will. And that's really how you got to think, is like, who makes the final decision in these questions? Now, if it has to do with like what Shannon's asking me about a survey, yeah, I'll give her that insight. But if it was something else, like, I would say, hey, let's call the title company. Let's call the listing agent, because they're the ones, the relationship with the seller. They'll know whether the swing set in the backyard staying. They'll know whether that flat TV is real property or not. And then obviously the title and the lender. All right, then you go down to paragraph 10, and I usually template it upon closing and funding. You just got to know that right now, a lot of people want lease backs, and that means that you would mark the second box, which is kind of like the HOA, because if you mark the second box, you also need to go to paragraph 22. And on the right column at the top, you need to mark according to a seller's temporary lease, because that's an attached addendum. If there's not one, then you won't have it marked. And that means paragraph 10 is going to be marked upon closing and funding. Does that make sense? All right. I don't like to write anything in paragraph 11. I know some of y'all, will send me a contract and I see something in there, and I don't micromanage, so I'm okay with it. But if it gets weird and you're putting things like time is of the essence, reply now, I'm going to kill you. Like, give me a break, like, calm down a little. We're not lawyers. So most of the contract is done. All right. They've been revised 1 million times since I got my license. The whole purpose is that you never have to write anything there. And just realize that in this market, there's one home for every 100 buyers. If you make me an offer and you put in here something like, hey, get off your ass and reply to this offer or we're out, I'm going to be like, bye. Yeah, don't even worry. We ain't responding, and you'll never get this home, even if you offer me $1 million over list price, because you're an asshole. And that's kind of how a seller would look at it. I would argue that paragraph 12, you'll probably never put anything in there either for a long time. This is where you ask the seller to pay some closing costs. And right now, no seller wants to pay anything. They don't even pay for repairs because they don't have to, because there's just no inventory. So that means that basically from paragraph 10, you're going all the way to paragraph 21. Now, in your templates, I put your email already. So if this was Tim's zip forms, it would already have his email, whatever he ends up buying as his email. It would already be there. And what I always recommend is that he put the buyer's email right here. Buyer@buyer.com. And that way the title company knows, here's the email for Tim and here's the email for the buyer. You can put both cell phone numbers for you and the buyer. I would probably stray away from putting a physical address, because a lot of people that are buyers are in apartments and their mailbox is this big, and title companies don't send out title commitments anymore because they don't fit in the mailbox. So they're always almost exclusively done via email. And I always like to be copied, and that means that you will be copied. And again, I don't even use this as a default, because when I execute this contract, I'm going to send it to the title company, introduce myself, copy the buyer, everybody gets introduced, and I'm going to say, hey, anytime you reply back to Laura, the buyer, copy me on everything. And so we're already in the loop anyway. This paragraph 22, it's probably where I see the most errors, and it's not really an error on your part. It's a pain in the ass to read every one of these addendums, but you have to check mark it if it's going to be attached to the contract. So the other day I had somebody that marked this and 3A looked just like this. So I'm looking at 3A and it was just like this. And I went to paragraph 22 and it was marked like this. And so I texted the agent, go, hey, why'd you mark seller financing? And they go, I don't know. And I was like, what do you mean you don't know? Like you physically had to mark it, didn't you? I'm like, I don't know. I just marked it. I was like, it's not applicable. I do joke with people.
But it helps you remember.
It does.
When he jokes with you. just
Yeah,
like,
because
if you
take
call
it.
Me, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna joke with you because you're gonna remember that question you asked.
Yeah, because it just doesn't make sense. So what is seller financing? I mean, it's like if you have an addendum that you sign that it's called dog walking, I think on that addendum it says you're going to walk your dog. And that says seller financing. It means that the seller is financing the home, which means that there's no mortgage at all. And the seller is going to be the mortgage company. That form I will absolutely look at if you send it because I want to make sure it's filled out correctly. So that's not going to be marked. By default, what will be marked is the first and the third because those are the most common addendums. What I see a lot of is this one marked. And that is what we are learning on as we go. It's the appraisal waiver. And I'll explain it in further, another day. But that's being marked a lot. And then over here, a seller's temporary lease. If the home is built before 78. And then a lot of times we're asking for things like this table or that water bottle. And that needs to be put on a what addendum? And you would just go like this. Now, let's say Shannon behind me, she's an intermediary right now. So right here, she would probably mark intermediary. But again, if she didn't, it's no big deal. Okay.
That's another thing, Doug,
Yeah.
that I've run into. If you have a buyer who wants to waive inspection, I like to cover my assets, as they say. So I have them sign what's called inspector info.
Nice.
And I always check that box and include it on that list as well. It's an easy form. You just go into the all forms in Zip.
Right.
And type in the word inspector and it'll come up. And if you have them sign that when they're waiving inspection, which I would always recommend,
Absolutely.
it just covers you and it covers Doug and it covers DHS.
Yeah.
So that if they come back and say, I didn't want to do that, and you're like, no, you signed it and you said you wanted to do that. Because that's a pretty high risk.
Absolutely.
So
No, I
that's
agree
a quick
100%.
note.
Yeah. And I'll show you all that before we end this training. Two things. I'll show that and remind me on the, on something else. I already forgot where it was. All right. So from right here, so from paragraph 22, we go a page and a half to right here. And again, this will be blank. There's a little hiccup in my Zip forms, my personal account, because I put my wife in here. All right, this is the way this page will look. And it's going to be marked just like this. Okay, so it's already going to be marked like this. I've done the work on the left. So that Shannon Smith will be Laura Alexander, her license number, her email, her phone number, and then everything else will be the same. What you need to do is match that length on that side and not go any further than city, state, and zip. The only time that this whole side is filled out is if there's how many brokers? One. But when there's two brokers, that stops at city, state, and zip always. All those answers are on the agent full report that you printed. All of them. All of them are there. And it's identical to the left side. It'll be filled out on the right side with new information. And you don't go any further than city, state, and zip. If there's one broker, all that shit on the left will be moved over to the right. And what I would argue is move it over before you delete it. So move it over and then delete it. And if there was one broker, would this be marked or would this be marked? And would that just say DHS Realty and the broker license number? And then if it was Dave's listing and if Lola was the agent, Lola would be the selling agent. Okay. And I don't think you need to fill out the rest of this for me because it's already going to be here. But you do need Lola's name if she's the second agent. If there's only one agent and it's Dave, then all this will be deleted. That'll be marked. That'll say DHS and that'll just say Dave and he'll stop at city, state, and zip. And only that square right there will be filled in because there'll only be one agent, but it will be marked seller and buyer as an intermediary. Does that make sense? Okay, that's it. You're done. You hit save. And then you, once it says saved with the exclamation mark, you hit the back button. Oh, okay. So the last page is the receipt page. And this is where the title company will receipt in the option. They'll receipt in the earnest money. They'll receipt in the contract date. And then if there's ever additional earnest money, there'll be a second receipt. In my opinion, the most important paragraph is right here. If that is blank, you have screwed the pooch. Because that is always day 0 in our contract. And when it says broker fill in the date of the contract, that's for test purposes. But in real life, your happy ass will do it. It will be the last agent with the last changes that make it an executed contract. And you basically put the 5th day of June, 2022, and that's always day what? 0, and all your days start from that. Okay. All right. So it's saved. You hit the back button. Let's look at a couple more. Third-party financing addendum. Now, what I've done is I've templated this first paragraph, and some of y'all, I templated it a year and a half ago. So you might have 3% there where it says 5, and I'll catch it when you send me the third party, because we'll need to change it to make it more current with what rates are today. But conventional financing is your most common financing. And so it's already pre-filled, and you fill in one blank. That is the loan amount. And this page is always the loan amount page. Always. Always. It's always the loan amount page. And the loan is whatever's in 3B boy of the contract. Now, what Lola was talking about is at the very bottom, I template 21 days. And what she said is perfect. Text the agent, go, hey,
The lender.
I'm sorry, text the lender. Hey, my third party, I have 21 days for buyer approval. Do you want me to keep that? No, will you change it to 7? Boom. No, yeah, 21's fine. Oh, we'll do 14. Hey, lender, this is Lola. I got 21 days in my third party for buyer approval. The other agent wants me to put 10. Should I? No, don't put 10. Okay, cool. But she's
They may
getting
tell
it
you to put 14
Yeah.
because they want to cover, they
themselves.
want to cover themselves
And you.
and kind of help you too.
Yeah.
Just in case they drop the ball a little bit. So, never go by what the listing agent asks you.
Right, I meant to say lender. Yeah, perfect. That's absolutely right. So, and then the second page, there's a blank here. It will only ever be filled out if it's an FHA or VA loan. So you will be done on the first page if it's conventional by putting in the loan amount right there, and then I'll review it to make sure. But if it's FHA, the second page is always the sales price for FHA and VA, which means what goes there will be whatever's in 3C, and what goes on page 1 is always what's on 3B boy. All right. Then you hit the back button. Now, let's say that you're like Dave just mentioned. Dave, let's say this was Dave's zip forms, and he's looking for that buyer inspection waiver. In this right corner, it says all forms. And if you ever are interested in finding where a form is, after you hit, and I'm about to end training, but after you hit all forms, there's another drop down. You've got to pick it. And when you pick it, you've got to pick all, because that's all the libraries. Then all you have to do is maybe type in waiver, or type in, and it's kind of dummy proof.
Type in inspector for the one I was talking about.
So inspect, you're there. So see how it's dummy proof? I could have typed in INS. It would have picked up anything with INS in it. So then if that's the form, I double click it. And once I double click it, it just moved it to the bottom of my forms. So then when I go down here and I open it, you scroll up and you can say, here it says inspector information. So is that it?
Yep.
Yeah.
So on the 2 lines, you put your buyer's name, you click buyer, you put the you put your DHS Realty, whatever the property is, and then you go down the bottom and you click, I choose not to hire an inspector. So they're saying definitively in a document and signing it that they chose not to hire an inspector.
I like it.
It's a good idea to have that in there
Absolutely.
if they're waiving.
Now, the last thing, and then we'll end training. I think that's great. So let's start doing that. Sometimes you're in a seller template and you're inundated with 55 offers, and you don't want to counter one, because if I'm the seller agent and she's my seller and all y'all sent me an offer in and I counter in writing him only, I've just now had him hold me hostage, because she could have upped her offer overnight much more than his, but now it's in his court. If he signs that counter, it's over. But I want to respectively tell all of you that you need to make your offer better without truly doing a counter. What you would do is you go in here and you would be, again, I always say hit the select libraries, make sure you have, and then you just type in rejection and you don't see anything. So you put invitation, and there you see invite, seller's invitation to buyer to submit a new offer. You double click it, and then I'm going to read it so we can see what it says. And it's not a counter. That's what's beautiful about it. It's a rejection, but it's a nice way of saying, I don't want to date
But
you
officially,
anymore,
it doesn't-
but it was good to meet you.
But officially, it doesn't delete it.
Oh, no, you're good. No, what it is this. You've sent me in an offer and we believe another offer is coming in tomorrow. So instead, what I do, instead of countering you in writing, I put right here, you are invited to submit another offer, which seller may more favorably consider if full appraisal waiver, no home warranty, your firstborn. Then you send it. And if you did it as a template, like if you did it as a template, couldn't you send that to everybody? And you did not counter anything. And so there's no obligation on your part. And you really, what it says at the bottom is it's a rejection with an offer to submit a new offer with the terms that could be favorable if you follow this guideline. And it's a really cool way of not getting involved in the minutia of personalities. And what you do is just blame it on me. And when an agent calls, you go, oh, why'd you do that? That's my broker policy. Oh, what's your broker's name? Oh, it's Doug. Here's his number. He's looking forward to you to call him. And I'll say, yeah, we train on that. Oh, have you never seen it? No, I don't understand it. Well, it's a rejection, but it's a nice way of saying, make your offer better and you might get it. But we didn't want to counter in writing for you to hold us hostage over the weekend when we're doing 5 open houses and we might get an offer 200 grand higher than yours. So if you want to make your highest and best, and that would, you could say that, highest and best offer, tell your buyer, quote, go as high as you feel comfortable, where if you lost it over $1, you weren't mad. I think that's pretty straightforward. No home warranty, 7H, I want 0. Paragraph 5, I want 20,000 earnest money to truly title, 3-day option for $3 grand. Paragraph 6, I want the buyer to pay the title. Booyah, you know.
Can I have a question?
Yeah.
Does this rejection to everybody rejects everybody's original offers?
It does. It does if you
So it's
send it
like
to
a
everybody.
counter offer,
But it's
just the
not.
language different.
Well, it's a
Legally,
rejection.
It rejects everybody's offer.
A counter is not a counter is a rejection until she has her client sign it and then she just bought a home. So a rejection is a flat ass rejection, but it's a nice way of saying, hey, it's been rejected, but we appreciate the offer. And if you look at it and bring us another offer with these terms, we might accept it.
Right, it's thanks for playing, try again.
See, look at the bottom.
Yeah.
This communication and invitation is not a counter. The property remains on the market. Seller may consider other offers and accept another one. So I think it's pretty smart in this market. You don't have to do it, but just remember the day you counter in writing and you're with the seller, you just became a hostage.
It's like
And
your tennis, man. When you do a counter, it's their turn to hit the ball back to you.
yeah,
Whereas if you do that, it's thanks for playing. try
yeah,
again.
serve
What was
again.
that form again?
It's going to be at the bottom. And what I do is when I do your templates, I put it in there, but it's called seller invitation. Here's the deal. This is what's really crazy. I used to be with a different brokerage and they would tell you to find these forms by a number at the top of the form. And I was like, why would you do that? Like you could just type in 3 letters of the form and it'll pull up every form that has that title. So anytime you're in your documents and you want to find a form, you basically go like this. Make sure you've selected the library and you have all, and then just watch this, lease. Pulls up every form with lease in it. And you scroll down and go, oh, look, I want to add the, I want to add a lease application. I want to add the lease. I want to add exclusive right to
Okay,
lease.
can I pause you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know the agents that are with DHS, but I'm talking to the agents that are not with DHS. So this is the benefit of having Doug. Don't ask out of Doug.
Okay.
Okay, so when Doug says he does our templates and he pre-fills our templates, this is what that is, meaning for your seller, your buyer, your lease, your commercial, he's gonna go in and take every document that you could possibly need for each one, and he's gonna put it there, right? So that's where all those boxes is. Then he's going to actually template the ones that you need. So as you're scrolling down through the document, you'll see where he's inputted words, right? There are other brokerages that don't do none of that.
Yeah, a lot of
Okay, when I say none, you get zip forms and you don't see no box.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
don't know what to add, what to pre-fill. You just.
Just lost.
Yeah, if you're brand new, that can be real tough.
Right, so just be mindful of that, and for the people who do come over, this is a really good benefit because I was with Rematch before I joined Doug, but it took me 3 months to wake up. Okay, it was a big eye opener because she gave me a piece of paper and it had all the forms. She gave me 4 pieces of paper: lease, buyer, blah blah blah. She told me, "Girl, just go in there and just add them all in your." And it took me like 2.5 days and it wasn't pre-filled either. I was just adding the documents. It wasn't pre-filled for me. So that's a big advantage. Thank you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Yep. And I've had agents that
And,
have
one
joined
more
me.
thing. Wait, one more thing.
Uh-oh.
And then like when you, because this is, it's just like, the more you're in a brokerage, you get to realize like, damn, I didn't realize that actually worked for me. There are other contracts as you go through the journey of being a realtor that Doug never even talked about, but you'll pull it up in your forms and it's halfway filled out. You put the name in there and you're done. So that's a big benefit. I thought about that.
Yeah, I appreciate it. All right. So, all right. So this is our last website. So I'm going to 3 minutes go over this real quick. This is called Back Agent. And I have this on my phone as this website without the start on it. So it's basically right there. And I save it as a home screen. And when you log in, you'll have your own password. Your picture will be up there, and this will be your Back Agent. And this is where it's our office, but without a building. And that's why we don't have any splits. So if you go right here to people, I mean, it's dummy proof. Almost everything in real estate is. You go, hey, how do I find Lola, that personality? I really want to meet her. Okay, so you have to, be smart enough to hit first name. And then once you do it, it's going to pull up everything with
Almost
Lola,
everything is.
right? And again, if you said, oh, you know what, I only know their last name, and then you mark that, it'll pull up everybody with last.
That's a wig, y'all.
Yeah.
It's on the head. Wig.
All right. So anyway, so that's people. It's super easy to find. All right. And then the last thing is I'll just tell you about the office part. So if you always click office and then documents, okay, you're going to be where we have all of our forms loaded, and you'll hit quick resources. And this is where every form is. So Franco, I think it was you, or who was it about College Bryan State? Well, somebody, Waco. Yeah, it was Franco. He had a lease, and he needs the apartment needs our W-9. That's it. That's the broker W-9. Every lease needs it. Brokerage and apartments need a W-9 of the brokerage firm. These are all like marketing things. These are all the approved logos, but you can have your own logo. If you go down tomorrow, when I get home, I'm going to print this because I'm doing open house training tomorrow, 12 to 2. It'll be on Group Me. I'm going to print this. Could it be nicer? Sure. But all I'm trying to do is get somebody's name and phone number when I'm at the open house. Right below it, you can see it says referral form. I've seen a lot of checks come in for referrals, and all you do is you open it, and when you open it, it's pretty commonsensical, but I absolutely will help you. Referring agent. That would be if you were referring a buyer away from us. You would put DHS Realty, we're referring, and then you would scroll down, and there would be the receiving. They would be receiving the referral. And then on the second page, you would mark probably here and put somewhere around 30% and put of the sales price. And then right here, I just put NA because I don't really want this to ever expire because I'm giving this lead to them for life. And that's it. At the bottom, it's going to say for the broker to sign. But if you notice, it says /agent. So that means you can sign. Okay. And then you send it off and boom, you get paid.
Hey Doug, tell them about that last page though. Like, you're not giving the client information before it's signed, right?
Right. Yeah. And so, if I had an agent in Nova Scotia that I was sending Laura to, I would probably go on the internet and I would Google CRS agent in Nova Scotia, CRS agent in Chicago. CRS is a designation that the top 1% of agents have in the nation. So I know I'm going to be referring her to somebody quality. I then get a list of 10 people and I take some time to call them. I'm like, hey, Irina, this is Doug. I'm with DHS Realty in Dallas. And she's like, oh, I hate the Cowboys. I'm like, well, screw you. And I hang up on her. I'm going to call the next one. I'm looking for somebody that I know that Laura loves the Cowboys. So I need somebody that's going to hook with her. I don't really care if she didn't like what I like. I need to find out what my buyer likes, because that's the only chance I'm going to get paid when she meets that agent up north. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
And so what I do is, after I get a comfort level, I go, hey, I'm going to send you this referral form. If you'll sign it on the 30 and I get it back, then I'll fill the last page out with my client's information. And that's what Dave's talking about. A lot of things just commonsensical. You don't want to give somebody your client's information without getting this signed, because then they could kind of go around you. But other than that, I mean, that's our back agent. That pretty much concludes the training. And just real quick, I mean, once you send the offer over, you want to always communicate. Let them know the other agent received it. There's going to be a counter. At some point, there'll be execution. Your job is to get the earnest and the option to the title company in 3 days. I don't even care about midnight, because with the wiring, it should be immediate. And it's going to be on you. The day it's executed, you send an email to the title closer and you copy the buyer. Hey, this is Doug, Tim with Truly Title. Hey, I'm copying my buyer. Will you reply back with wiring instructions for my buyer to send the earnest and the option? You're done. And then you call Shannon, the home inspector. Hey, Shannon, here's my buyer's cell phone. Will you call and get payment through a credit card and let her set up the inspection? You're done. And then you wait about 4 days for the inspection report, and you're probably not going to do anything with it. You're just going to let the 5 p.m. lapse, because you're not going to get any repairs in this market anyway. Okay. And then you're like a quarterback. You're just kind of setting the stage for closing. And, you know, I would communicate once a week with everybody. Just a quick text. Hey, Lola, just checking in. Everything good on your end? Oh, yeah, Doug, thanks. Thanks for checking in. I thought I'd be like not here for the after we got executed. No, I'm here for the whole, whole time.
Every Monday you send, when you go on the contract, my best advice is every Monday or Tuesday, send an email to the title company, the lender, and the listing agent, and ask for an update. Make sure things are going smoothly, make sure your buyer has done what they needed to do, make sure the seller is not lacking anything. So if somebody drops the bomb, they'll know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's about it for the training. And